What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel where I am Mr. Track Nasty, aka Apollo, and this is Ride 5 Career Mode. Now, since the last episode, there has been a lot that has happened. We have actually gone ahead and completed the last sector, and unfortunately, all of the recordings that I had for that championship got erased. I don't know what happened to them, but unfortunately I don't have them. So we are starting off here in a new section, a new sector of races. We have completely passed to Spark a Fire. We are here on Monza on an MV Augusta. And, you know, I remember playing this track in the very beginning, but I don't remember a whole lot about it. I know there's some really hard braking points, such as, you know, this one here. It gave me some problems originally, but it overall wasn't too bad. I think my biggest problem in this, you know, group is the bike itself. I think because it's such an old bike, I believe it's a 60 something. You know, it's old and it doesn't work the way the newer bikes do. And what I was running into a lot was I couldn't be on the brakes and go to trail brake into a corner, or I would just dump it. I really had to be careful with the way that, you know, brakes were being applied and the way I was turning into corners. Otherwise I was dropping it, or, you know, I was dumping the rear, and it overall just, it took a lot of getting used to. But on top of that, I noticed that the AI, I think, are progressively getting harder, so to speak. You know, we've had it on roughly 70% difficulty, give or take, you know, a couple percent here and there on whatever race. And I feel like since To Spark a Fire, things have gotten a lot more difficult. And I say that because, you know, you'll see I've got almost a second gap between me and Chester right now. And depending on the races that I was in, it was being closed like no tomorrow. I mean, I really had to be on it with the brakes. I really had to go into each turn perfect. You know, I mess up here and I go wide, and the difficulty that I'm on, you know, these AI really know how to close that gap. So if you're not spot on perfect with everything, it was a fight nonetheless. On top of that, you know, I think part of the problem that I've been having, especially with Mugello, which is the next race that we're going to get into, is I've played a lot of these tracks on, you know, leader bikes in MotoGP, or, you know, 600s versus now, you know, a 500. So I feel like braking points are definitely different, which cause your lines to be different. And it's just kind of scrambled my mind, because I'd go into these, you know, circuits with somewhat of a muscle memory with how I had done them previously, and it just was not working. For Mugello, which we'll get into, you know, I had to completely rework the lines I was taking, because it was nothing similar to what I had done in the past, and it was causing me a lot of frustration nonetheless. It was a lot of restarting races and trying to get better lines. Or one of the biggest problems that I had with the MV Augusta for this section is, at the start, you couldn't be slapping the red line for your launch. For me, what was happening is I would slap the red line and it would just kind of slap it for a minute after the race would start until it would catch. And by the time it would catch, everybody's already, you know, they're already going through the first turn, and I'm just getting down the front straight. And to fix that, what I had to do was really try to play with the throttle and how I was going about doing my launch. It was really aggravating, because some launches would be perfectly fine, slap the red line, let it go, and that green light hits and you're off and you're good. Well, with this one, I mean, it was very difficult. You would have some really bad launches and it would just cause me to restart. I didn't even want to bother with it. You know, as you can see there too, the traction control is odd. I mean, I was slipping in places that I really didn't think I should have been slipping. Could it be attributed to the fact that I've got a medium tire? Possibly, but I really don't know. I'm not that advanced and, you know, in the know-how of how things like that work and whatnot. I didn't really want to go messing with the electronics and try to fine-tune this for, you know, this section, because this video is already later than I would have liked it to be. I've been so caught up with life and work that, you know, I just really haven't had a chance to sit down and race and get a recording out. And, you know, for that I do apologize, but we are here now. We're getting this video up, and hopefully, you know, things are going to get a little bit better moving forward. I'm going to try to be more consistent, but at the end of the day, you know, it's not my day job. I'm just posting these for fun. I couldn't care less about it at the end of the day. Now, as we come up on the final turn here, Mugello, I think, was definitely the most aggravating track for me to play, solely because I know how good I can ride that track, at least, you know, from a MotoGP standpoint. I've played through this track enough times to really feel like I know every turn, every corner, and I should be doing it flawlessly. But as we're gonna see, you know, it was very brutal, to say the least. Normally coming down, you know, I don't even know if we would call this the front or the back straight, because it really is like the only straight. But this is the line, you know, I would normally take here. You kind of push over towards boundaries a little bit, and when you're able to go in, you don't have to do as much of a turn, and you kind of get yourself set up. San Donato, definitely one of the hardest turns for me to take this time around, solely because the braking point I'm used to is much further back, and having it pushed up so far because I'm on a slower bike was just very confusing to me. I'm so used to, you know, this certain line that I just couldn't take. Aside of that, though, you know, this really is one of my favorite tracks. I think it's a beautiful track, very flowy, you know, all the turns, nice big wide turns, and I really do think this is one of the better GP tracks in the circuit right now. I do think that, you know, Arrabbiato 1 and 2 are probably going to be my favorite turns. I don't really know why. I think it's just because of how quick and, you know, you get that quick change of direction, and it's kind of just something different as opposed to what, you know, is normal here, where you've got big flowy turns like Scarperia and Pelagio, Casanova, Savelli, very flowy, wide, long turns, and then you know, you go through Corintao, you hit Arrabbiato 1 and 2, and it's quick, bop, bop, you know, change of direction. And I think that's, you know, part of what makes this my favorite track. Just certain turns I think are really, I don't want to say fun, because I've never been able to do it myself, but I do think that, you know, this would be an amazing track to have a track day on. You know, and as you can see, I'm not really keeping a huge gap between me and Alex. I think, off the top of my head, I don't know for sure, but I do believe that gap does kind of close up a little bit, and then I'm able to open it again. As we can see here too, you know, I'm following this blue guideline for the most part, and that's not really what I wanted to do. Normally I'm way out to the right, and I kind of ride the right side until I hit San Donato and I hit the brake point and I go in. And I noticed with this turn specifically, with the MV Augusta thing, you know, I really almost couldn't be on the brakes, or I was losing the rear. And then going through, you know, these turns like Luco and Poggio Secco, I really had to be careful with how I was on the gas, otherwise I was high siding and I was flying with the birds. But overall, I mean, section's done, we're moving on, and, you know, I'm still having a good time. I'm enjoying myself. I hope you guys are enjoying the content. If there's anything that you guys do want to see out of me in terms of other games, let me know in the comments down below. I can try to make that happen, and, you know, as I've said before, I do plan on doing other games, especially with the Elden Ring DLC coming out soon. I do plan on playing the living hell out of that. So if that's something you guys want to see, you know, let me know in the comments. If there's other games, just let me know. Now, as we've got, you know, about a lap and a half left, I really have nothing else to say about Mugello, so I'm going to let you guys watch through this part, and I will catch you guys for the next race. Okay, we are here on the last track or circuit of this section. It is on Imola. So it seems as though, you know, this section was strictly Italian, and I'm not really complaining. I genuinely think that the Italians have some of the nicest tracks around. Now, this one kind of really struck me. I don't know if earlier on in this Let's Play we had something on Imola. The name sounds familiar, but I don't remember playing through this entire track. What I do have to say is I genuinely think that Imola may take the cake for my favorite track and dethrone Mugello. I'm not too sure, but I had a blast playing this track. I think it was a very fun track. Lots of turns, lots of interesting, you know, layouts, so to speak. There was some very hard parts, this turn being one of them, and Tosa, which is the third turn, I believe, is definitely one of the ones that was really catching me off guard. It was because of the whole braking thing with the MV Augusta. It was just causing me to drop the bike, and it wasn't easy. I really had to be careful of how I was braking through them in order to get the bike to stay up. These two turns there really reminded me of, you know, Arrabbiata 1 and 2, just very flowy track, and then you get this quick couple turns where it's throw your bike one way and throw your bike another way, which I thought was you know, interesting to see how some of these turns really reminded me of Mugello's layout. Nonetheless, you know, I had a blast playing this track as well. This one definitely caused me a couple of playthroughs before I could actually complete the race. And as we're going to see a little bit later in this, I did end up having to rewind a little bit. I got a phone call that I had to attend to, which caused me to pause the race. And when I came back, my controller wasn't completely connected, and I dumped the bike right into a wall. I was not going to redo this whole race with, you know, I think it was 1 or 2 turns left. So I rewound it, and I did my best to cut it to where, you know, you can't see much, but you can tell it's a rewind. Unfortunately, you know, I was not doing it. I was fed up when I was doing this race. It was just not a very pleasant day, so to speak. So I just said, you know what, we're going to rewind it and call it good. Nonetheless, this one was definitely one of the interesting ones, though. You'll notice if you look at the gap that I have between myself and Chester, it goes between like really big gaps. Like I'll have, you know, a 4-second gap and it'll drop down to a 2-second gap. And then, you know, I'll get it back up to a 3 and then drop it again. And, you know, I think that's what I was talking about with the whole AI. I think the further you're progressing, the harder the AI get based on how you've been performing. Now, I could be completely wrong. I have no idea. That's just the way it seems to me. It seems as though, you know, they get harder and harder and harder. When I was doing the championship for the last, I say sector, but, you know, I don't really know what you would call it. Normally, we have races on about 70. For me to even stand a chance, I think I had to drop it down to 60. I mean, it was just brutal. I mean, they were on point with everything. And I really don't know if I want to know what it would be like to experience this game on max difficulty. I think it would be a lot of hurt feelings, a hurt ego, and I don't know if I would play the game again, to be honest with you. I don't understand how they can be so good at this when I feel like, you know, I am on one. I'm on a hot lap, and that's on 70. You know, turn it up to 115%, wherever the highest is, and it's just going to be hurt feelings, which, you know, it is what it is. Nonetheless, you know, we did complete the race. We completed this group, and we're moving on to the next one. So as we're coming up on the final lap here, I believe it's after this turn. Yeah, this is Tosa. This is that turn I was talking about. This was one of the ones that gave me the most trouble. But after we come up this little bit of a straight, we're going to take the wide turn here. And that's where it went wrong. My controller just, it like didn't respond to me when I hit resume. So I had to, you know, rewind it. I was not going to redo this race with a couple of turns left. But I do think that is all I have to say about Imola in general, which, you know, is everything I have for this video. If you guys did like the content, let me know in the comments down below, and I will catch you guys for the next race.